should take her to the hospital. But we didn't have the money at that time, you know, for medical expenses. And so the way things worked out, my father decided he would call the city physician. At that time, they had city physicians come out to the house to aid people. And so by the time he came out and examined me, he told my father if he had waited one more day, one more month, or morning, he would be without a daughter. It was just that critical. The situation I had when I went to the hospital, they said that I had rheumatic fever, or scarlet fever mixed with rheumatic fever. Okay, so I got through that and had all these antibiotics given to me, you know, all my stay in the hospital, I think for a couple of months. And even the Lord blessed me in that, because I wasn't serving God at that time. I didn't even really know anything about church, because we didn't go to church, but yet still I had parents that taught us right, and they believed in God. But to make a long story short, when I got to the hospital, and we had these wards, what they call wards at that time in receiving hospital. It was about maybe eight people in that same room. And they had the same condition that I had. But yet and still, just to show you how God worked, I was so anxious to go home. And I would be crying. And one day the nurse came in and she said, "Why are you crying?" I said, "I want to go home." Because my mom, she couldn't come to see me every day, and my dad worked. So I really didn't have anybody to come see me. I was so lonely for home and for my mom and whatever. She said, "Do you believe in God?" I said, "Yes, I do." And even as a little kid, 12 years old. And so I said, yes, I do. She said, "Well, pray." She said, "Pray real hard." She said, "The Lord will hear you. You hear me." And so I did just that. I began to pray. And I began to pray and cry out to the Lord. And come to find out, the next thing I know, the doctor came in and asked me, "You want to go home?" I said, yes. I couldn't believe it, because I'd only been there such a short time. People that were in the ward had already been there for months, and they wouldn't let them go. And they said I had a heartburn, but yet and still they said, "You can go." Legs swollen, still painful, but you can go. And I thank God for that. They let me leave, and some of the other kids were crying because they could not leave, and they had been there a long time. And so I remember when I look back at that, I said, well, you know what? I thank God for that experience, because even though I got all those painful shots every day in my hip and taking blood every day, I got through that. But then as I look back and I think about how I had that condition, and I said, you know what? I don't know what caused my body to be so weak. But then after I found out later on, when I had gotten saved and I was in my 30s and I believed in fasting and whatever, the Lord revealed to me that I was allergic to eggs. And then I also found out later on after that I had a sensitivity to yeast. And so as long as I stayed off of eggs and dairy products, I was fine. I didn't have any more conditions with that rheumatic condition, even though I had suffered really hard with it when I was about 23 after I had my second child. And so to make a long story short, a few years after that, I started getting these rashes. I started, having these sensitivities in my body. I could feel something was going on in my body that shouldn't be. And I got this big rash on my hand, and it was kind of red, and I couldn't understand what it was. So after I talked with my husband about it, we're gonna go see what that is. So I went, and they tested, took a biopsy of it, and came back and told me that I had psoriasis. And I said, psoriasis? What? How could I? What is psoriasis? But to make a long story short, and I keep saying that because there's so much this, and I'm trying to capsulize it. But when you have in your system, and all of us have in our system, what we call digestive yeast in our colon and our stomach. And so by me taking so many antibiotics over the years as a younger child and on up into my, grown years, if you don't do something to replenish the friendly bacteria in your colon, then the yeast, the digestive yeast, will just take over your body. And that's what happened. That's what happened to me. And so I thank God that I learned that you have to replenish your friendly bacteria, no doubt about it. Because the probiotics that I learned I should have been taking, they actually blessed me, blessed my system, and replenished what the yeast and had destroyed in my system. And so I had come up with a condition they call, they had nicknamed it, I guess that's just a natural name of it, called leaky gut syndrome, wherein the yeast can thin the lining in your colon and in your stomach to the point where the yeast can come through, see through microscopically. You can't, it's nothing you can see with your naked eye. It's a microscopic thing. And it'll seep into your system and begin to set up in different parts of your body. And that's what was happening to me. And I began to read about it, and I began to see the fact that sugar was one of the main culprits. Sugar and carbohydrates will cause yeast to thrive. And if you have any kind of condition in your body, any kind of sickness, cancer, whatever it is, sugar will feed it. That's why it's good. If you hear people tell you to stay away from sugar, that's the best advice they can give you. And I would listen to that. All these pops and different other things people drink is no good. Stay away from sugar. It's no good. And I can tell you from experience that an alternative to sugar or sweet things is agave. Anybody ever heard of agave? Okay, blue agave is very good. It's a natural sweetener, it's an herbal sweetener. And then I've heard of another herbal sweetener called stevia. Anybody ever heard of stevia? So do yourselves a favor. You can save yourself a whole lot of agony because things are going on in your body that you don't really understand. But if you would take the advice, stay away from sugar and use the herbal alternatives that God has placed, because the Bible tells us that God has given us all things pertaining unto life, this flesh, and godliness. All things. And I began to search and read, and I have a daughter who's very versed in herbs, medicinal herbs that can help you. Whatever you're suffering from, there's not a herb on this earth that won't address it. Would you believe that? God is awesome. And He looks out for us. Even when we don't think He is. When we don't understand or we don't believe. And you got so many people that don't believe in herbs. But the book of Genesis says that the green herbs shall be for your food. So herbs are very helpful. And they're natural. There's no side effects. You ever heard of all these crazy side effects? Like when you're watching TV and all these medicinal things are being put out there for you to take for this and for that. Then next thing you know, they're talking about what? The side effects. Suicidal thoughts. Can cause you to have crazy dreams, liver problems. Where you never even thought you would have liver problems. Some of these medicines will cause different effects. So herbs are a good thing, and they have no side effects. And I can go on and on, but I know the time is getting, late. But just thank God that He has provided things that we can use, alternative things to all these medicines and things that are detrimental to us. So I just praise God. Praise God, praise God for all that He has done and all that He intends to do. And I thank the Lord because my daughter, when she told me about the transformation, and I'm going to leave you with the scripture that talks about a transformation. I mean a true transformation. Transforming your life out of this dark world into the light of God. That's the greatest transformation. We can build these bodies up and be super strong and do all that, but nothing can replace the transforming power of God in our lives to help us to get rid of sinful conditions and habits and things that will make us displeasing in the sight of God. That's the greatest transformation we can ever do.
Evangelist Jackie Stevenson. Can we have One Nation on deck? You guys will be wrapping up the program in a minute. All right, guys. So we have a few more minutes.